almost from a pain point of view, like, what do you find, Jason, as there are a lot of like small things that merchants complain about? And Mark said that everyone hates their platform, which is, I think, kind of a funny anecdote to think about. But it's never like, oh, I'm leaving for 10 reasons. There's always one reason, really.
Yep.
And then there's like 9 things they say to justify what they did. What do you think is the one reason that really is the true motivation for a replatform?
Ooh, that is such a great question. We have a lot of single issue voters as it relates to commerce platforms. I wish I could give you one answer. I'm going to give you a few that we see the most. Recently, when Shopify announced their price hike, it destabilized a lot of their base of people doing meaningful GMV. And so I think that's one thing that says, hey, listen, there has to be a way to do this cheaper. At least this is the moment to evaluate. Whether they change or not, your guess is as good as mine. But there's a whole bunch of people thinking cost now can be a big driver.
Okay.
The second one, and it's kind of related, but if you were to track how much a percentage of GMV commerce platforms get over time, it actually has been going down, even though the cost of commerce has been going up in aggregate. And so what's happened is the shifting of economics to forcing merchants to use the payment provider we want because of the models that are supported behind the scenes. And so a lot of the costs of commerce are really connected to vendor lock-ins on your email vendor and all those things. And so preventing choice has been a big reason that people are investigating alternatives. And the third is they're on unsupported platforms. I mean, think back to the 2016 story I told you. IBM, they outsourced it they sold it to HCL, who's a services-based company for the most part. And you have Oracle, who's end of life their commerce platform. You have Magento. If you're less than 50 million, you're not supported. So there's a whole bunch of people running on something that has already been killed. Sorry, I couldn't find a better word. No,
that's interesting. And I think, Mark, you have firsthand experience with this. What's your trigger issue from a replatform point of view as you think about and assess a company you work with or you have been at in the past?
Yeah, I think the points that Jason made are all good ones. I think the other one, and maybe it's a subset of end of life, is that if you are on a platform and you've been on for a long time and you have been active in making customizations, you create ultimately this Frankenstein of code that's out there. You may have a base foundation that was very solid, but then you built on top of it, on top of it, on top of it, and after a while it no longer looks like what you originally had. And that's something, every time we would want to make a change and the tech guys come in and say, yeah, we made the change, but we broke 12 other things along the way. That increases the cost of ownership. It increases frustration. So I think that's a big reason for considering alternatives as well.
Yeah. No, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I find there are two things more than anything that cause people to think about replatforms. Number one is like some kind of major investor event. Like there's a new CEO, the company is recapitalized, and they start to look at, there's new thinking that comes in. And I think that kind of lines up with the idea that, look, if you're just trying to hit your number next year, you don't have time to replatform. You have time to add a new marketing program, increase your spend, optimize your spend, go on a new channel, improve this workflow, get products to customers faster. You have motivation to do the incremental things. It's extremely rare. I find, particularly in like private equity or public companies, you almost have to have new money and new talent to take a risk on a big new decision like a replatform. And if you're not in that situation, I find that you have a lot of tire kickers that aren't actually going to replatform. They like seeing new things and talking to vendors, and vendors get very excited to talk to them, but these people aren't really in their pipeline. Like, if you're going to be honest with them, what they're trying to do is actually make sure that their current vendor, they can get leverage against their current vendor. Like, hey, so-and-so did this. Have you thought about this idea? And try to get it on their current vendor's roadmap. I mean, that might be against you, Jason. I don't know, but
no, but it's a true statement. We saw a ton of that in 2023, which is show me what's out there. Oh man, that's really cool. And then, oh, I need a better deal for my current provider or these features or whatever. So I totally agree. We use a term internally called return on aggravation. Like if they're going to actually do this, it has to be worth their aggravation of doing a replatform because it's not a small undertaking.
No, for sure. And I think Marshall, who's an old friend here, it's totally right. It sounds like in 2023, a lot of people were like this. They kind of get in turtle mode. If you do something too outside of the norm, then there's almost only downside, because if you're risky and it pays off in the future, you may not even be around to see the results. But if the launch fails, then you're going to be fired like very soon. So the risk reward ratio is like almost inverted here. And so I think people miss a lot of opportunities this way.